Hello, everyone. Frack on to a new episode of Frack the Canon. This time we're joined. Sorry, can't join us, but we've got some longtime people who haven't been on the show for a while. We got Tiz, aka Tyler, Renee, girl Renee, and Mr. JT Holmes, Jonathan, aka John.
What's up?
What is up, good guys and gals? So, being 90s kids, being that we're still in quarantine, we're still locked up, we're gonna go back to the 90s. We're all 90s kids. Talk about the 90s X-Men show. Who wants to start?
I'll kick us off. I'm totally okay with that. So I recently got on that Disney Plus, just searching, just because after the fact that everything, like movie-wise mostly, between Marvel and Star Wars and all these other things have been getting posted, I figured it'd at least be a good place to go back and see, what Disney shows they had on there. And I was actually really surprised that they had the X-Men animated show. And I went through and I skipped ahead to probably my favorite arc, which is the Phoenix Saga.
Do not do it!
Oh dear.
You wish me to return to the cold nothingness of space? You wish me to give up the body? Never!
Oh, great
And
arc.
even after all this time, it still holds up.
Yeah.
And it was so excellent. And just watching the artwork where kind of like they had to cheese some parts, but then like some other parts where you're watching and like, whoa, like kids are watching this. Like, it's like, that's when it starts to get a little bit darker. I felt like, at least from a viewing standpoint, of what they actually would show. And just going back, especially after the release of that last X-Men movie, to kind of realize just how different they took that Phoenix Saga, and just going back to kind of said even the original way that it was kind of pitched to a lot of us as kids.
Right.
Like I'm one of my brothers is watching X-Men Evolution right now, but I was like, I feel like I have to honor the OG cartoon, but it still holds up. And there's just some voices that'll just stay with you forever, almost kind of like Kevin Conroy as Batman.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Yep.
It's kind of like I wouldn't be able to tell you really the names of any of those voice artists. I haven't been looking into it. I just remember just being like, this is how I always remembered Wolverine, and this is how I remembered, like Scott as Cyclops, was just all these different personifications, and even like Beast and the way I remember him. It said it was really it's kind of incredible. So to go back and look, and it still holds up. So.
If I could interject, you brought up the Phoenix Saga first, because like that was always such a memorable saga from the cartoon. Like I remember that was like I don't remember the year that it came out, but that was like the year that my little mind figured out how to work the timer on the VCR. You know what I mean? Because like I could never, because I lived so far from my school and we took the bus to get there, and I could never like get it home. Like I watched like weekday afternoon cartoons, you know what I mean? But like, thank God for that time VCR, pre-DVR era here, kids. But but I remember like taping that every day and coming home from school and being excited to like, you know what I mean, like go and watch it, you know what I mean? And it was incredible, and I have watched it recently, and it was, I mean, it still holds up, you know what I mean? There's a reason that there do takes on this in the theaters recently, you know what I mean? There's a reason they keep going back to this story.
All right, Renee, Tyler, who wants to jump on?
I'll just jump on really quick, because the Dark Phoenix Saga it was brought up by John, and I'm happy it was reiterated. But I would say what's very significant about that, a lot of people tend to overlook, is that was the first time there was a seasonal arc for an animated show in American television history. And it was so significant, not only for just the show as a whole, but also like generational change in how television was presented to children everywhere. It was one of the very few things that signified like, okay, instead of like talking down to kids and having super simplified storylines, this is actually something, a story we can convey depth and complex stories to kids.
Renee.
I agree with that. It was one of the very few anime shows that I watched as a kid that didn't dumb down the story. It wasn't, oh no, there's a bad guy with us as kids, and I haven't seen it in decades, but I remember that was the main thing about X-Men. It was different from all the other cartoons on the Fox Kids lineup. That's for sure.
So truth told, I didn't watch it till way later in life, because in the early 90s I was very, very pretentious. I'm like, everyone likes X-Men, frack that. No, I'm not watching X-Men. But when I got into comic books, I went back and watched. This was, I think, around the time X-Men Evolution was coming out. So I was watching X-Men and X-Men Evolution. So to me, X-Men Evolution is my X-Men. But the first X-Men animated, the 90s X-Men, it's pretty freaking dark. It's like, and I was talking with Tyler earlier, like, they kill off Morph, they kill off a character. Like, wait, what? People die? Like, what is that about? Like, what? That to me blew my mind. I'm like, when I was 15, 16, I'm like, wait, this is a kid's cartoon. Like, why is this? It's so. And I remember watching as much as I could of it. And then the one that I remember watching, because friends had it, and I would be at their house, was their version of Age of Apocalypse. I remember that. I'm like, this is messed up. What is happening? Wait, what is a traitor to the X-Men? And at that time, because everyone loved Wolverine, I'm like, no, I like Gambit. But Wolverine is my favorite.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, Gambit, yeah, mon ami, the Raging Cajun. But I just it's and I was watching it again on Disney Plus. The animation, it is of its time, but the story still is really like really for a kids show under 10. This is way too. We were what, 7, 8 when it came out.
Yeah.
Like
especially after the Phoenix Saga, I noticed because then I just kind of started spooling through that definitely inspired almost a regular, pretty important. Like they would do kind of an earlier season arc in some of the seasons when I was looking through it, but then they would always have these big major ones. And some of them, I said the original Phoenix Saga one, I think it's about 6 episodes long.
That's
like,
pretty long.
Not some like little 2-3 episode to be continued. It's like, whoa. And then like they would do that. They would do a couple of them and then a season then, because they were like, oh, right. There's so much to work in here. And it said, like, I do agree, like there are definitely some parts within the animation where it's like, oh, that was just copy pasted from that other episode. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that was just a recycled shot. But then but I said they definitely had a way of like, it was still so charming, You know what I mean? Like I said, it was one of those, it had the G.I. Joe aspect where like a plane gets shot down, you see the guy parachute out, like everyone's okay. And they're not firing guns, they're firing lasers. Like, they're just like going, they're just going off in directions. Like some guys just like, like they're not aiming at anyone or anything.
And they made the stormtroopers.
Yeah. But I like the Sentinels were scary even in the first episode.
Yeah.
Going off of something that let's talk a little bit about the characters, like, because here's like one of the reasons why that cartoon is so memorable. You know what I mean? Like, not just the setting, not just that, it's about mutants and it's about these downtrodden, but let's talk about like some of the characters. You know what I mean? This is like kind of what makes it memorable. And I'm gonna take off on you, Renee. You said Gambit, who became far and away my favorite of all time, heavily having to do with this show. At the time when I was watching the show, I was a big Cyclops fan. I thought he was pretty cool. I mean, but as I got older, I was like, okay, he's just like a human gun, basically. Like, shoot stuff. But then I realized Gambit, he's got all the personality. You know what I mean? He's got that suave, that fakish accent.
Too.
Yes, that bow step. I love that bow step. The card of the bow step. That was awesome. What about you, John? Who was your favorite X-Men character?
I mean, as a kid, I was definitely a big fan of, like, Cyclops, because I thought he was, like, and then, like, later, I don't know why, all of a sudden I started teaming with Wolverine. I'm like, yes, like, Cyclops is kind of like a know-it-all jerk. I just like the fact that Cyclops shot a gigantic laser beam from his face. I was like, that's dope. And then, like, here's Wolverine, and he's getting thrown with his claws, and I was like, Wolverine's the best.
Yes.
Like, I was as a kid jumping out of trees, like I was like, I wish that, the what is it, the
Adamantium Plus.
fastball special.
Oh yeah, the fastball special.
Or
Dude.
Colossus just throwing him, like, it's. They said they even do that in the first episode. Beast throws him over the fence.
That's right, they do.
Get me, bub. Hey, bub. I love it.
And the Wolverine became I hated Wolverine only because everyone loved Wolverine.
Yeah.
But then when I grew up, I'm like, no, Wolverine is the best. I just thought Cyclops was a jerk. I'm like, you're a jerk, even as a kid. But then I realized both characters named Scott are assholes. People in my real life too.
I feel like that's a standard 90s, definitely 90s cartoon thing. Any cartoon character named Scott is a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So,
all right, so I got Wolverine. So my 90s X-Men is so our 90s X-Men is Gambit. TJ, it's Gambit. Yours is Wolverine.
I probably have to go with Wolverine, yeah.
Renee and Tyler, who wants to go?
I'll go. When I was a kid,
Tyler.
mine was Wolverine. But then, like, later as, like, a teenager, when I watched it again, I was like, oh, Cable is sick.
Cable, good reference, good.
Yeah, or Bishop. Yeah.
The Cable storyline's incredible.
It's so good.
That one's really good. Like, the Weapon X one is pretty good, but that one the Cable one is excellent. And as I said, it's all on Disney Plus. I mean, I don't want to be plugging them or anything, but I mean, like, I feel like if I've kind of watched the extent of, I feel like I've seen as many Marvel movies as I need to for the next 30 years. It's kind of cool to go back and just know that there's high def versions of them, because you could find them pieced together on I don't want to say like pirated websites or something, but that's what people would do, is they would take their old VHS, and they would digitize them and post them somewhere. But like, these are full res, like the sound is incredible. Like, it's, that said, it's definitely, I would definitely say that. What other ones do we got besides I feel like we could talk about.
So let's go with Renee and
then forever.
Yeah, let's go with Renee.
For sure.
Move on.
Okay. So like you, I liked Gambit, like, hands down. Gambit was my favorite. And then Rogue was my favorite, and Storm.
Storm is sexy. I had a crush on Storm.
So did I, dude. So did I.
Like, I don't know why, but go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So no, I just found Storm very, very. I'm like, this is a cartoon, but like, she's pretty, and her powers are pretty cool.
Right?
She had the best hair.
Yes, it was so
the best.
Too. She had amazing hair.
I don't know. Rogue had nice hair.
Oh
yeah.
Man.
I'm so glad you brought up Rogue, because like, she has so much. Maybe most personality outside of like maybe Wolverine.
Yeah.
She has like maybe the most personality in the whole team, like, and like, she's a joy to watch. And I'm like I'm a very big Rogue fan. Like, actually, like, I don't read a lot of Rogue stuff, but I love Rogue. Like, I like, I like Mr. and Mrs. X, a comic run. It's like her and Gambit are married or whatever, and like going on adventures.
That's a thing?
That's the thing, yeah.
Oh gosh, I need to hunt that down.
Yeah. Yes, I would recommend it. Yes, certainly. But I just love that character, and just the idea of her and Gambit's relationship too. This idea that like, he likes her, and like she likes him, but she can't really like anybody. I mean, she can't really like.
Yeah.
And that's shown through in her arcs and her story.
And her personality.
Yeah, definitely. She's definitely one of the most complex characters in that aspect. She's afraid to get close to people, and I think that's why I like her, because she's afraid to get close to anybody, but it's because of her power, and so I thought that was an interesting storyline for her.
All right, so we're gonna go. So we've got favorite. So we talked about favorite story arcs. How do you guys? So we're talking about the X-Men, but if you could take anyone from, because I got nothing else to do it. Cool from it now. If you could bring any 90s X-Men trope to live action, what would it be? If you could put it into live action version, what would it be? If that makes any sense.
I need an example.
So, for example, if you were to bring, let's say, the actor who voiced Gambit.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What's up with that? What do you got? What do you got, Tyler?
Oh, I would do the storyline where Magneto takes an asteroid and takes all the mutants there, and then it turns into a mutant human war.
Asteroid M?
Asteroid M, yeah, exactly. And I just throw that one there because I feel like the X-Men movies tried every other storyline and they kind of failed at it, and I don't want to see them try it again. So.
It's true because so Sarah brought up the Asteroid M thing. Okay, you know what I would like to see that we haven't seen live action, the Acolyte. We kind of saw them in X-Men 3, but not really. Maggie's Acolytes. Well, that's kind of, I don't know.
No, I mean, I feel you. I could agree with. I see what you're saying, and I can agree with that.
They really screwed the Apocalypse storyline.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they paid the best homage to Days of Future Past.
Yes.
And I really feel like the whole Apocalypse storyline was kind of laid out in front of them.
I remember you and I walking out pissed off out of that theater. We're like, dude,
yeah. Well,
that's
the thing is how do you have a TV show for children display all these stories and then you get a multi-million-dollar production company to be producing something and it's just schlock?
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen? You know? And like, I always remember too, as a kid, I mean, on the side, and we were talking about like Magneto, I always thought that the way that they had represented like Raven as Mystique.
And that is when you abandoned me.
All the other people in like the Mutant Brotherhood were always way more like, I said, like Beast is like an actual like character.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like even Juggernaut is an actual character. And it's a children's TV show. And the way we've been presented them is, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Like, make a joke. You're like, really, X-Men Last Stand? Like that's the homage you pay to Archangel?
Yeah.
Him sawing off his wings. And it's just like,
that's right. That's right.
And so I feel like it's just kind of funny to go back. I'm like, oh, that's right. Like I at least can step back into time and be like, this was done in a way that was I liked it. You know what I mean? Like, great. I know it's the cartoon for kids, but at least it's not schlock.
It's definitely that cartoon though was definitely made in a time like because even Batman the Animated Series was around the same time, right? Like a year before.
Right.
And even that show, we're talking about Batman in another episode. We're like, wait, this is was the kids show? There was so many. Go ahead, Tyler.
Oh, just saying they came out the same year.
Right, yeah.
They knew with their target audience that especially because if you guys remember back in the 90s, they started getting really crazy about the TV ratings for kids shows between the TV Y7, the TV 14, and then MA for like, I remember South Park was the first MA show I ever watched, TV MA. But like at the time, the fact that they understood and they picked this up a long time ago is they were going to have to grow with their audience.
Right.
And that if they were going to be taking these images of superhero stuff, that if they could walk into, I mean, if you guys remember when we were kids, but really like, I feel like we used to go to near comic shops and places used to be selling comics all the time. You can't be putting a image that they can go get for $1.50 off of some rack and it's all bloody and gory and then expect them to watch the super dumbed down Disney version on TV. Like, no, they knew they were going to lose a lot of, especially with characters like Wolverine, his main ability is to stab people to death. And
it's why it's why there's so many Sentinels in a show, because they could behead a robot and not be a problem.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, a lot of them were robots. Yeah, I remember that was the thing too. Like a lot of the bad guys' henchmen were robots. They weren't. That's why they could beat them with the weapons.
Yeah.
In the first couple, if you just watch even the first couple episodes, they display so well already the people's fear of mutants and the powers they have, and then also like how there's the people who want to use their powers for good, and then there's someone, even on the team of the X-Men, Morph, who is just kind of this really gross kind of character.
He's a gross Mystique.
Yeah, a little bit, where you're like, he's on the X-Men. It doesn't really make the rest of them look very good. You know what I mean? Like, but then you like understand it's like, and they bring that, I think they bring that into the fold later too, is when they kind of show how even Magneto's allies, they kind of go back and forth. And you got those kind of storylines as kids. You watch these people kind of morally like a tug of war, Right.
There was a lot of gray. I'm looking at it back now. I'm like, there was a lot of gray in the show that was made for kids.
They used the vehicle of a superhero show,
It's something that I've always loved about the X-Men. was that it portrayed very well, highlighted very well that they want to protect a world that Fusion hates them. I'm like, all right, you guys, I think that's why our generation is a little bit more tolerant, I want to say, but I don't want to say accepting tolerant. I don't know. CJ, thoughts?
Me that ball, but
or we can move something.
No, I do like that about X-Men. I think that it made it stand apart. Not Batman. Batman is fighting you have Batman and he's set up in an episode, and then you set up the villain that he's gonna fight, and that's Batman versus that villain.
Right.
And the thing with X-Men is it's like, yes, there are villains, but like the X-Men show, it's like they're like, are there even villains in the show? Kind of. There's this like this idea of are there even villains? Everybody just kind of has their own angle at life, you know.
It's
go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's like the X-Men versus the world, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every time they try to step in to do good, you see everyone be like, "Ew, get out of here."
Yeah.
You know, and it's like,
yeah,
okay.
and a lot of the arcs in the show are in times where the people they're up against aren't, like you said, aren't even villains. Like Bishop, when you first show up, you're like, you think he's a villain, but then he's actually trying to, save the future.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I forgot about that. One thing that I forgot, and because I was like, all right, I gotta use the notes. IMDb this, Wikipedia this. I think it was the first time we saw a love triangle in an animated show, right?
Yeah, wasn't it like Wolverine, Jean, and Cyclops?
Someday I'll learn not to let my guard down.
Oh no!
Jean.
I've gotta go. Cyclops is waiting for me.
So am I.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was. I don't think we've ever seen it since, or before then.
There were others in the show too. Later in the series too, with Professor X and that space girl, and I think
Moira.
Landra and Moira.
Yeah.
I think that's from the comic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that much that well. But yeah, no. I'm glad we had this talk. Because
Did they try? I can't remember at all with Kitty Pryde's involvement in the if her and Colossus, or if that's strictly just the X-Men Evolution I'm thinking of.
I think that's
It was
just
Evolution.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I couldn't remember because I thought she gets introduced a little.
Yeah, I don't think she did. I was Colossus even in X-Men animated?
Colossus is in the X-Men animated series. He shows up.
Kitty Pryde was on the original cast list of characters to have, but they chose Jubilee instead.
They did Jubilee, right? They went with
Jubilee.
Because it's definitely, that's the one thing. It's very 90s Jim Lee's. I think they just used all of Jim Lee's designs for the costumes and characters and just brought them in, right? It feels like this. So before we run out of time, let me check my handy dandy phone. That's right, kids. I just referenced Blue's Clues. 4 minutes. All right. So it felt like, all right, okay, so before we go, an animated version. If you can pick your X-Men team, who would you be?
Oh, man.
How many people?
Yeah, how many we allowed to go?
Five. You have five.
Five?
Oh, gosh.
Are we talking extended X-Men? Are we talking about ever X-Men?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that include Spider-Man?
No, because he's not immune. All right, I'll go first. All right, mine
Is Deadpool? Okay.
No. From that movie.
That's true. Deadpool's not.
From that cartoon. From that cartoon. If you could make
Deadpool wasn't in an episode.
All right.
Arguing.
Yeah.
It's Spider-Man, though, wasn't he?
No, he was in X-Men.
Yeah, he was.
So who's your team? Who's your team? Let's go teams. Right. Let's go now.
Okay, fine. Nightcrawler,
Go.
Wolverine, Storm,
Mm-hmm.
Beast, and Cyclops. All right, who's next?
A quick clarifying question. Are we trying to win? Or
No, just
are
your
we
team. Just your team.
Is this for fun? Okay.
Yeah, for fun. Your team.
Oh, my team on the spot. I do Wolverine, Colossus because I need the fastball special.
That's right.
And then Cable and Gambit and probably Storm.
Okay. All right. Who's next? We got 2 minutes.
I'd be going with Wolverine and Iceman, and Beast, and Jean Grey, and Rogue.
Ooh, good list. Good list.
Yeah.
That's
All
a
right,
good
CJ,
one.
Renee.
You go, CJ.
All right. Let's see. Gambit and Rogue for the reasons I mentioned before. And then it gets hairy. No, I'm joking. Cyclops, because he's an excellent leader. You need that dick guy.
You do.
Wolverine. And Storm, because
Yeah.
she's awesome.
My list is pretty much the same as CJ, except minus Cyclops. I would substitute Beast.
Beast. Represent Hank McCoy.
Hank McCoy.
Yeah.
Hank McCoy.
He's
I
got
just
his
remember.
doctorate.
Here's the one thing I always remember from that show is Beast's catchphrase the most. Is my stars and garters.
Oh, my stars and garters.
Yeah.
Did Kelsey Grammer say that in the?
I didn't even say that.
Was it X-Men Evolution? Real quick, was it X-Men Evolution? Yeah, it was X-Men Evolution, where Kitty Pryde walks through him and leaves her toothbrush in him by accident.
Yes,
that was Evolution.
I'll always remember that scene. I loved that version of Beast too, and I thought Kelsey Grammer was an excellent casting.
That movie was a piece of shit. I hate that movie. Everyone knows
it is a terrible movie, but that was a great.
Kelsey Grammer was amazing as Beast. I wish he would come back for a full movie. I don't know.
I know. Nicholas Holt's got that on lock.
I know he does. Alrighty. Well,
Disney's got that on lock now.
Hey.
Yeah. Reboot.
This is true. All right. So this was fun. Unfortunately, we had running out of time. I wish we had more time so we could talk about a little bit more in length. But we'll be back. Don't forget the drinking game. We said a like, and a lot of times. So don't forget to watch us whenever you can, like and subscribe. Same fracking time, same fracking channel. Frack off.